This is Stephanie Shevelkin from Shevelkin Designs, and today we're going to go over part 4 of my granny square sweater. In this video, we will be going over how I seam the pieces together to create the full sweater, and how I do the rib edging for the collar, the cuffs, and the bottom edging. So, grab your 4 granny squares that we have blocked in part 3, and let's get started. If you like the videos, please follow along, subscribe, like, and let's get to it. Thanks, guys. So the last time we spoke, this is where we were. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove all my pins, and then we will be left with just our 4 granny squares. And then I will show you how I set them up to seam them all together. So let's go ahead and remove all of our pins. And now I have my granny squares, and they are all nice and flat and blocked, and I can go ahead and lay them out. 2 of them I'm going to fold for the arms, and the other 2, one will be the front and one will be the back. So right now I'm deciding which ones I want for the front and back and which ones I want for the arms. Now that I have decided on which ones are going to be my front and back, what I do is grab my stitch markers, and I am going to pin them together so that they match up. These are going to be my arms, so I'll show you those in a second. And here's where you can have a little bit of customization. Is like, here's where your neck would be. Your head would come out here, right? So you can decide on how wide you want it to be or how narrow you want it to be. So if you want it more off the shoulder, or if you want it to be more tight and not off the shoulder. You can also decide that when you do the border around the neck. So let me go grab my stitch markers, and I will show you how I do mine for pinning around the neck, and then I will show you how I line up the arms. So for these I did 20 rounds, and on my black and white one I did 19 rounds, just to show you a comparison. And I did connecting at 4, I believe. Let's see. The corner is 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it connected right here, in from each side, 2, 3, 4. So right there and right there is where I'll pin these 2 together, and then I'll pin in the corners as well. So you can either seam these together now, or you can do the arms first, and then the sides, and then the neck. It just depends on what you like to do, but I'm going to pin that first. And even though this one is 20 rounds and this one is 19, I'm still going to keep it at that, because I like the way that sits, and this one is the next size up. So just to be cohesive, that's what I'm going to do. So let's go ahead, pin these. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then the corners. Okay, so now you can see this is where your collar will go, and this will be your shoulder, top of your collarbone, shoulder seams. So now we can grab those, put those together, and you can either sew those together now, or you can figure out the arms with me. I want to lay this back out. So now we can look at the arms. And the best thing to do is, this is what your arm's going to look like when it's on. That's the front, this is the side, that's the back, but we have to open it. Now, if you have a front and a back like I do, you want to make sure that either all your fronts or all your backs are facing the same way. I'm doing all my fronts facing the same way. So I'm going to do this one on this arm. That one can go to that one. Now I'm going to find the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is going to go in this corner. So it's going to connect to that one and that one. So if that's the middle, scoot it over and it's going to connect there. We want all these other ones to match up. And then we will connect those as well. So I'm going to grab 2 more stitch markers. I mean, you can do more if you need to, but I'm only going to do 1 on the ends. That will work for me. Perfect. So now we have this one. What I like to do is I like to seam this area first, then I'll fold and seam this part and this part all together. And then I go back and I seam this section up here. But that is just me. You can, of course, do however way you like to do first. Then I go back and I do all the ribbing. So let's turn this and do the next side. Pin the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Okay, so now we got all of those. I'm going to move it to the table and we will start seaming everything together. And I'll show you how I do that. So now that we are moved to the table, I have my scissors and I have my needle and I have my yarn. Now we're going to do the invisible stitch or invisible seam to seam it all together. So it really doesn't matter what yarn color you use, but I'm going to stick with the outside color because I'm also going to use this to do the collar and the cuffs and the bottom edge border ribbing. So I'm just going to stick with this pomegranate color. So I like to do about 3 times the length that I need. Hopefully that usually gives me a little extra to weave in, sometimes too much, which is better. I'd rather be too much than not enough. 1, 2, 3. And I'm gonna cut that. And then I'm going to secure it right here. Okay. And then I will show you how I do the stitch. Okay, so now that I have attached my yarn, I have knotted it to the back loop of the first chain. I'm going to go ahead and thread my yarn through my needle. Now we're going to start doing the invisible seam, which is also the mattress stitch. And how I'm going to do that is I've already gone through the back loop of this first chain. So now I'm going to go up to the top here and go through the back loop of this first chain. So I'm going through the back loop and I'm going to come through and I'm going to go through this back loop. Now, some people will go through the top first and then the bottom first, so then they're always leading with the top and then the bottom. But what I have noticed and what I do is I start and do bottom, then the top. So I lead with the bottom stitches and go second with the top stitches. And that way when I pull to tighten the seam, every single one cinches together and they're exactly identical. They're not swooshed like that. So for me, I come back down through that bottom, back loop, and I'm going to go through the next stitch, that first double crochet back loop. Oh, there we go. Oh, my little tail got caught. There we go. Hold on to my tail. Okay, so now we've done our first 1, 2. So now we're going to go back up to the top and do, oh yes, sorry. There we go. There's my chain. Couldn't see my chain for a second. So now I'm going through the back loop of the chain and the back loop of the first one right there. So that's 1, 2. keep my tail out of the way. You don't have to pull tight. In fact, it helps if you don't right now so you can see. And I lift up so I can see what I'm doing. So now I'm going to go back down to the one I previously was in. So that first double crochet, going in that back loop, going to the second double crochet. So now that's 2, 3. And now I go back up to this top one, go back into the one we just came in, which was 2, and now we go into the second or third back loop. Go back down into the one we were just in, go through that back loop, into the back loop of the next one. So that's 3, 4. Now we go back up to the top. And there we go to the one we just came out of, into the next one. There. Then we go into the one we were just in. Into the chain. Into the one we were just in, and into the chain. So you see how I'm always doing the leading with this bottom one, doing it in the top one second hand. And you always go into the one you were just in. So I was just in this chain, so now I'm going back into the back loop of that chain and back loop of the next one. So now I'm in one. I call this one because it's the first double crochet. Now I go back up here, through the chain, into the first one. And I say this in my head as I go down the line so I know I'm matching up. So first to second. And first to second. And it takes time. I mean, maybe other people can do it super duper fast, but I like to make sure that everything is matched up and I'm not skipping anything or going too fast that I can mess myself up. So I take my time and do it accordingly. And you see there's a gap right here, there's this space, but when we pull this, it's gonna cinch this up and cinch it tight. It's not, okay. Then we go back into that third and into that back chain. At the top, the third one, back loop of the chain. There we go. Perfect. This is the front or the back. We'll say this is the front. And this is your arm. So this is kind of like the armpit area. And then we're going up to your shoulder. So it's a nice, slow process. Like I said, other people might be able to go faster, but I like to take my time. Chain to the first one. Now we go back. First one to the second one. Go back. First one to second one. Now that I'm a couple, 1, 2, 3 down, I'm going to hold on to my tail and I can cinch it tight. I like to hold it because I don't want it to like pull. So I'm sorry if you can't see that because it's not gonna, I don't want to pull it all funky, but I just hold my hand down and you see how it's pulling it, cinching it together. I don't want it to pull it too tight, so I like just hold on to it. Pull that yarn, and it cinches it all together. And you see, now they're completely even with each other. And that's because I'm leading with the bottom. If I lead with the top, it will be off. So that is my suggestion, is to make sure that you lead with the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and I will just continue doing this along this seam. And about every 4 or so many clusters, I'll go ahead and pull and tighten and cinch that seam up tight. Next, I will go ahead and work up to the join of the shoulder, and I will go ahead and pause there to show you how I do that join. Then I will continue to work all the way the rest of the section down the arm. And then if you already know how to do all of this, mattress stitch, invisible stitch, seam, then you can go ahead and skip right on to the ribbing. Otherwise, if you would like to further watch how I do all of the seaming, I will fast forward and pause at important sections that I think you'd like to see. If you need to, please feel free to rewind and fast forward, whatever works best for you. So now I'm coming up to that corner join of your top shoulder, where your arm and the front and the back all come together. I'm a couple stitches ahead of that join. So you can see I'm just coming up to it, and now I will explain to you how I do that corner connection. And at the top, middle back loop to the third. Okay, so now we are getting to the join. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out of this one for a second so I can see what I'm doing. We're going to go back through the back one to that middle, the chain, go back through the back one to the chain, and I'm going to tighten all of these while I'm here before I move on. And if it pulls too tight, I just pull it loose again. So that way it's all even. Now I'm going to go into the back loop of this chain. So that way that one's with that one. And now we're going to go through the oops, get it. Lift it up a little bit so I can get through the back loop into the first. Back loop into the first. And did we get through? Yes, we did. Okay, there we go. So now we got the corner. Now we go back into the first, to the second. First into that second. Now that we have finished that shoulder join and connecting all those corners, we can go ahead and continue doing our seaming down and finishing this arm section. Okay, so I just finished up this corner seaming these last stitches together, and I pulled it tight and I got it all nice, and see how they line up perfectly. And I just finished this one here, the seaming here. So now I'll fold it in half and I will seam the other section. And as you can see, I have still a ton of yarn, so I can seam that one up first. Okay, so now I have folded it up, as you can see, and this is the front facing. This is the inside, and the insides are together, and this is the front, the outside. So this is where we just left off, seaming. This is the front tail, so I'll tuck that under for now. So you can either go down the arm or you can go down the side, and I'm gonna go and continue and go down the side. Then I will rejoin, I'll do down the arms. So now we're gonna just continue going down this side. Continue all the way down, and then I would end on connecting that chain. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You're going to end on the first chain. That way, when you open it up and we do the ribbing around that bottom edge, it will be cluster, chain, chain, cluster, because this will be connected. Okay? And let's continue. I'm going to go ahead and finish this. I will show you at the end how it looks. So here I have completed this side section, and you can see how it looks. And once I've pulled and cinched it tight, it brings those stitches together ever so beautifully. Now that I finished this side section, I will reconnect in the armpit here and continue the underarm section. Here is where I joined in the armpit. I have taken my yarn and attached it to a stitch inside the armpit, and then I have woven through some of these stitches to just close this up so there's no hole. And now I'm going to continue to go down the arm. I'm going to go through that chain and this first stitch, and I'm going to go exactly the same thing over here, find that chain and that first stitch. Now there's going to be a lot of yarn to pull through, so I'm only going to do a little bit of it right now just to get us going. Go back down through the stitch that we just came from the bottom to the next one. So now we are on to the second. Pull that, go back to the first at the top. And it's a little tricky here because these are all connected. So I'm gonna just grab one. There we go, grab one, pull that through, pull some, go back down, do that second, do that third, go back up to the second, to the third, and this is also the third right here because these overlap from sewing. Oops. Sorry. So I'm going to grab those two just to be secure. Come back down. So I know it looks like craziness right now because I don't have it pulled. So whoa. I know it looks like craziness right now because I don't have it all pulled tight and cinched, but we've gotten the first one done. So I'm going to keep going, and just remember to lead with the bottom, and I'll continue to finish this arm. I will do that off camera, and then I will join you in on to the shoulder. So here is where we are at so far. We have seamed up this section down the side and this section down the arm. I am now going to, off camera, do the exact same thing on the other side, that side section and that arm section, and then I will come back and show you how I do the shoulder seam, and then we will go into the ribbing. Here is the top shoulder section, and I'm going to take the end of my yarn and attach it in this corner. Okay, so now that's knotted. I can leave this tail tucked in to weave in later. And now I can cut my yarn for how long I want it. If I only want it for that amount, or if I want to make it longer so I can use for the collar, that is completely your choice. I'm only going to use a little bit, which will leave me some extra to weave in at the end. But you're just going to continue doing the same invisible stitch mattress stitch seam all the way down like we've been doing to this stitch here. I would end on that chain, and on that chain, joining those two chains together, and that's where you would end. Go on over to the next shoulder section and attach, flip it over and attach and seam that up, again ending on that chain in between the two clusters. So you'll end on that, and then we can start doing the ribbing. I'm gonna do my seaming off camera, and I will meet you and we will start doing the ribbing. I am now going to show you how to do the ribbing that I use for all of the borders and edges. For the collar, for the cuffs, and for the bottom, it is all exactly the same. So I will start doing it, and I will show you a little bit, and we will touch base. So yes, this is where I've left off. This is the shoulder section, the top one. My yarn is still connected, so I have pulled it and cinched it tight, and I'm gonna move right on into the collar ribbing here. Okay, so I go down a couple hook sizes for the ribbing. You don't have to, but I do. I like the way that it looks, and it tightens it up and gives it that nice little tension. So I go down to a 4 millimeter, but you can go down to a 3.5, or you can go up to a 4.5, but I do go down a couple hook sizes. Okay, so we've left off here. I'm gonna go into this chain to the left, which is my first stitch. I'm gonna do a slip stitch and come up. I am going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I am going to turn, and in the second chain from hook, do a single crochet down into that hump. So that's 1, 2, and this last one's kind of hard. You kind of got to turn it to get that hump to the stitch, but there's my 3. So there's my 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm back down to where I started. So now I'm going to slip stitch 2 stitches. So go into the next stitch, slip stitch, into the next stitch, slip stitch. And I'm not doing these tight, I'm doing these slip stitches loose, okay? Now I'm gonna turn my work and go skipping these stitches that I slip stitched into, going back up into these 3 stitches here. Okay, I'm sorry if that lighting is not. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so I'm skipping these 2 slip stitches. I'm gonna go into the back loop only of these first 2. 1, 2, and then the entire stitch at the top. So for every top stitch, I just do a complete single crochet. For the other two, it's going to be a back loop single crochet, okay? And we're going to continue doing this all the way around. I'll do a couple more to show you. And this will be our ribbing, okay? It's very little, but it goes around, and this is exactly the same ribbing for every single part. Okay, so let's continue. So I'm turning my work. I'm skipping 1, 2. Here's my 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to turn it so we can see it. I'm going to go into that back loop. And I'm not doing these tight. This is not like super crazy. I'm doing it nice and loose tension, evenly, okay? Not like crazy, like just nice, even tension, okay? If you pull too tight, then it's really hard to get into that third stitch at the bottom there. So just do it nice. If you do have troubles, like when I first started doing this, I would use a stitch marker to mark that third stitch so I wouldn't lose it within the slip stitches and the others. So if that's something that would be helpful, grab your stitch markers and do that. But I can see it and I know now what I'm doing. So there's our first single crochet back loop, our second, and then like I said, for the top one, I always just do a regular single crochet through both loops. So there's my regular single crochet. Then I'm gonna chain 1, I'm gonna turn, again going back down. I always count to make sure I'm not skipping any stitches. 1, back loop, 2, there's my third one, 3. Now I'm gonna go back down into these 2. This is where we came from. So I'm gonna skip 1, 2. Slips, oops. I'm sorry, I said skip, but I meant slip stitch. 1, 2. Now I'm gonna turn. There's my 1, 2. There's my third, right there. Go into that back loop, single crochet, back loop, single crochet, third one, regular single crochet, chain 1, and turn, single crochet, back loop, and then see here, it can get a little tricky, so I turn, sorry, hopefully, let me move that so you can see. It gets a little tricky, so I turn it so I see it. Pull that up, and there's my third back loop. This is where we came from, that first one, so slip stitch, turn. There's my slip stitch, I'm skipping those. Here's my third, back loop, back loop, and then third, top stitch, complete single crochet, loop over, pull up. There's your 1, 2, 3. And we're just gonna continue this all the way around. And this is exactly the same for all the sections. Okay, so let's take a look at what it looks like right now. You see how the ribbing is coming along? And you'll see it more as you go along. But it's just a nice little less than an inch cuff. You can always do more or less. It's harder if you do less because this is only 3. But you definitely can. Like I said, this is completely customizable. So that's what's so nice about this. Say you want a bigger collar. Say you want to do a turtleneck. Do it as long as you want. But this is how I do it. So I'm going to continue doing this off camera. And when I get closer to right around here, I'll meet back with you and show you how I join. Okay? Okay, guys. Here we go. Let's just keep it going. See you in a little bit. Okay, so we are coming up to our shoulder section on the other side. We're about halfway through the collar. I just wanted to show you how I do this section through the join. So I'm about a cluster before it, and we need to go slip stitch here and a slip stitch here. So that brings us right to the join. I'm gonna turn and do my back loop, single crochet, back loop, single crochet, full single crochet, chain one, turn, one, then back loop, back loop. Now I'm going to do this stitch here, this chain, and this stitch, which is the first double crochet in that cluster, I'm going to go and do my slip stitches into. So in here, slip stitch, and into that one, pull up, slip stitch. Now I can turn and do my back loop, single crochet, back loop, single crochet, full single crochet, chain one, turn, single crochet, back loop, and back loop. And then we go into the next two, single crochet, single crochet, I'm so sorry, slip stitch, not single crochet. Now we're gonna do single crochets. Single crochet, back loop, single crochet, back loop, full single crochet, chain one, turn. And we're just gonna continue this for the rest of the collar. I will meet you when I am closer to the end and show you how I join. If you already know how to do this and how to do the join, then please feel free to just go right on ahead and finish up all of your edging. And then you can enjoy your beautiful granny square sweater. But if you would like to continue here, I will go through and I will show you the end result. But first, let's get through this collar. Okay guys, I'll see you in a little bit. We're coming up to this last couple rows, and I just wanted to show you how I join the collar together. So I'm doing my second slip stitch, turn, single crochet, back loop, single crochet, chain one, turn. Okay, now we work back down. Oops, did I chain one? Hold on, let me check. Yes, I chained one, sorry. Okay, single crochet, back loop, one, back loop, two. Now we're going to slip stitch into that chain space right there. Not this one, we've already done this last double crochet. So we're going into this chain space. We're gonna slip stitch into that. Get through both of them, yep. Slip stitch into there. And then we're gonna turn. We're gonna do back loop, back loop, single, chain one, turn. Now we're going to Go into that first stitch and through the first stitch of the first chain, completely all the way through, both of them. And we're going to slip stitch and pull that tight. Now we're just gonna slip stitch back loop of the bottom row and the back stitch of the top one. Oops. Slip stitch, one more. It might be hard to see and it's turned. So get all up in there, turn it, grab that back stitch, or back loop, I'm sorry, of that third stitch, and then the back loop of that third stitch, and slip stitch those together. That is it. And it's connected. Okay, so we have finished our ribbing. So now we're gonna go ahead, grab our scissors, leave ourselves a tail to weave in, cut. I'm gonna pull that through. That is what our cuff looks like. I'm gonna take this and I'll get my needle and I'll weave it in through the other side, and then I will knot it and weave in the end on the inside so no one will see it. And that is it. Once you have finished all of your edging, then you can go ahead and weave in all your ends and tails. And let's meet up at the end so we can show off our amazing granny square sweater completed. We did it, you guys. We finished. Here we are with the completed my granny square sweater. So this is the largest one that I have done, and it may not fit me, but I did not make it to fit me. So I love it. I love the way it fits, how it goes off the shoulder. I love the oversized look. Thank you guys so much. Please let me know in the comments, how was the experience for you? How do you like it? Did you love it? What can I do better? What can I do different? Let me know your thoughts, comments. Please share, hashtag Shevelkin Designs, tag Shevelkin Designs, follow, like, subscribe for more. Thank you all so much.